What's up, man? The homie Big D, man. Continue on, man, with the chronological goddamn rise of the gangs in the Georgia prison system. So remember that what I had left off at. If you haven't checked out that first part, you know what I mean, please go back and check it out, or you won't be lost, because we are now moving from necessarily the streets to the prison system. When I got in the prison system in 1993, before you went to prison, you already knew in the county jail, before you even stepped foot inside the prison system, that everything was dictated basically about where you was from. No gang affiliation, none of that even mattered. The only thing that mattered is where you're from. If you're from Atlanta, you're rocking with the city. If you're from any other place outside of Atlanta, meaning Metro Atlanta, in the surrounding counties, which is usually dictated by, just say, DeKalb County, and I guess you could say Clay County as well. Although Clayton County, only people that really came down there wasn't a lot. Jonesboro, College Park, East Point, all that, city of Atlanta, just say the city. Douglasville and Cobb County, not Atlanta. That's how they seen it, that's how they played it, that's how they looked at it. I don't know about now, but back then they didn't really just embrace them to the same extent that they would embrace DeKalb County. Because you got to understand, Zone 6, which is Atlanta, because it's zone police is over there. You know what I mean? A lot of police that work Zone 6, extended into DeKalb County. So the city of Atlanta extended into DeKalb County, which in a sense made it feel like, okay, you are just as much Atlanta as us when needed. Now, if you were to get everybody together in the same dormitory, then, you know, it'd go Fulton, DeKalb, and everybody, all sides are split. But in totality of it all, the city versus everybody else. You know what I mean? So Atlanta versus Savannah, Atlanta versus, you know what I mean, the city versus the country. That's what the politics was. You knew that in the county jail, that what you was told, that what was explained to you. When you got there, and it was a culture shock to a lot of guys, exactly what they said. So what happened was, the gang affiliation, whatever it was that you had on the street, was null and void. If you was a GD from Albany and I was a GD from DeKalb County, we are not riding together. I'm riding with DeKalb County. So if an issue pops out between us, meaning the city of Atlanta, versus the country, our gang affiliation doesn't matter. But here's the problem. With that was, the reason why it was like that was because it was a disconnect between the two gangs. GD and just words in name only. And I'm going to get to the point of where everything started changing with that. And that comes from the street. Because as does the street, so does the penitentiary. So what happened to some of the other gang members who came from different parts, like Cobb County and other parts of Atlanta, that wasn't quickly embraced by them? Do we come together? Do we bond together? Yeah, of course you do. But what happened was, you had individuals who also came from these other parts and other towns outside the city of Atlanta that moved down here, was part of the intricate birth of the gangs in DeKalb County, Cobb County, Douglasville. They start realizing that maybe I can't be entrenched in this whole city versus the South Georgia thing, not to the point where I am, you know what I mean? I'm basically being isolated because I'm gang. Only thing I ever knew was gang, and that's it. So what they ended up doing was, it was this one guy came about, and they started forming this gang, which was already a gang, but he brought with him what came with him from the Midwest, 8-ball. What is 8-ball? Let me explain to you what 8-ball is. 8-ball is a unification of Crips and GDs. That's what 8-ball is. You know what I mean? I would throw the sign up, but if you take a Crip sign and put a pitchfork and put it together, you come up with an 8-ball. That's why they call it 8-ball. Eight Ball. And I'm going to explain to you the thing is about Eight Ball. It don't make any sense. You got two different gangs from different parts of the country that met in different cities and came up with an alliance. Two different politics. Remember what I said about LA gangs. Politics change from each set to the next set. There's no written literature that dictates to them how they operate in the particular gang. There is no particular gang leader over all the Crips. There's no. They have OGs, they have riders, they have big time drug dealers in different communities. Yes. Do they have more say so than others? Yes. But with that said, if it's no literature to back up what they're saying, it is to the whim of whoever everybody listens to. Don't punk the game. That's all it came to. And I got that from Toon. You know what I mean? Big Toon. Y'all, I know some of y'all probably will follow him, man. He's a good. Hey, man, I like dude. You know what I mean? But yeah, don't punk the game. You know what I mean? Rip your set. That's it. Rip your set. You know what I mean? Let them folks know where you from. That's basically it. Don't fold if somebody press you. What set you from, man? I'm rolling 60 Crip. Then third. Now, do they have rules and regulations in these neighborhoods? Of course. But like I said, it differs. It differs from one neighborhood to the next. What can be accepted over here in 8th territory might not be accepted over here in Rolling 60, which is right across the street from each other. You know what I mean? Whether it's accepted in the Hoover territory, you know what I mean, which they ain't Crips no more. I ain't just do that. Y'all got to excuse me, man. Messing up my newscaster guy, dog, over here, shorts and sweatshirt. But anyway, might not necessarily be the same in this neighborhood. So, yeah. But GDs, which originally came from Chicago, have a set rules, literatures, and everything that you had to follow. It is very goddamn structured. And because Chicago gang followed the same guidelines as the mafia, which was Chicago was a mob ran town. So the gangs followed the same thing. The Crips and the Bloods, they came from a different direction. Now, we can sit there and say how they came about and go back and forth and say they was a spinoff of the Black Panther Party. As they would say with the Chicago gang, they can say that they are a spinoff. You know what I mean? After the Watts riot and everything, this is what came up out of the ashes with young, angry young black men and women that formed the Crips. But only thing that I know for a fact is that the Crips do not have a set thing to follow behind. And the reason why I haven't got on the Bloods yet, because I'm going to do all that in one. So we are just speaking specifically on the Crips right now. In the GDs, which formed 8 Ball, which was the prominent gang, the only gang that really was in ALTO at the time. When I first got there, and it pops up out of the blue. I did a story when I was talking about the guys sitting there and I said, that ain't how to go. You know what I mean? And basically, I knew the difference between the two. Now, why did I say that and why would I know that? Is because I have familiarity with it. You know what I mean? I had people that was in my family that was part of that, entrenched in it deeply. You know what I mean? Connected with the people up top, all that. But anyway, so the thing was, when you start a game that nobody familiar with, and you give people literature on this game, then they can only follow what you are telling them. That's it. Period. But what Dude didn't take into account was the fact was that you had GDs that was two second generation GDs who had a better idea and knowledge of what was going on. And they started hitting the prison system by 94, 95. It was a trickle in. It was a trickle down effect. You had some guys coming in from Columbus. You had some guys coming in from Albany. You had some guys coming in from other places around that was like, nah, this ain't how this go. Which I call them RGDs. That's what I used to call them, the real GDs. But the problem was with that, it wasn't a lot of them. So what they did, they got into the prison politics. I'm from here. That's who I'm rolling with. I'm rolling with my city. I'm from Albany. I'm rolling with everybody around Albany, which is South Georgia. I'm from Columbus. I'm rolling with Columbus. I'm from Augusta. I'm rolling with Augusta. You get where I'm going with this, man. Because that what dictated everything. Because Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, zone 1 through 4, were the larger group there. And they was right. If you ain't from that city, then you know what it is. Mindset on majority of the guys that was there. Then you had DeKalb County, of course, who was riding with the city. So gang affiliation is not that. Did you have some guy from DeKalb County that did follow in behind with the 8-ball situation? Of course. You had a guy from Clay County doing the same exact thing. The same exact thing. So yeah, that's what was going on. But it was not established. They wasn't a force at all, really. You know what I mean? Because when it came down to it, hey man, you're gonna have to pick a side if it go down. You rolling with the city, you rolling with the country, what you doing? But the problem is with that was they was picking up dudes from South Georgia who wasn't familiar with the game, just wanted to be a part of something because their numbers were sparse. I'm talking about places that didn't have a large number of guys down there. You have Albany, but you have places around Albany that may not be close to it and don't have like one or two of us. I'm going 8-ball. You know what I mean? I got to have somebody because, you know, if situation pop out between Albany and whoever, Albany ain't, and I get involved with it, you know, Albany ain't rolling with me. You know what I'm saying? So now what you're doing, you are basically pulling yourself farther and farther away from your attachment to the city of Atlanta, which it was really none at all outside the top guy and some of the other guys. But that what was going on. What happened with 8-ball, like I said, you had the real GDs that came down and seen what was going on, and they wasn't with it, so they would move themselves from even trying to do anything or talk to them folks or whatnot. But they went back to whatever the prison politics was at that time. I'm from here, so that's what I'm rolling with. Plain and simple. I'm not finna get involved in that at all. And it wasn't Bloods down there, but not many. Not many. And you know, Blood's not going 8-ball at all. You know what I mean? My boy KC, he was one of the few real Bloods that I seen down there. He was one of the few. You know what I mean? I seen a couple of them that would walk around, you know what I mean? However they get the red rag in, they do it. But the thing is about dude like KC, he wasn't even trying to recruit, per se. He wasn't bringing guys in. He was basically saying that this is watered down version of anything that he was taught to be. Period. You know what I mean? So he didn't want to be a part of it. And to that extent. You know what I mean? Moving forward though, what happened with 8-ball? Well, the thing that happened with 8-ball was something that he didn't expect, the guy who started, and what happened with 8-ball that he should have paid attention to, that the second and third generation bangers came out the street. But it was sprinkled in, it was like a drip. Then all of a sudden, Macon, Mactown, third generation gangbangers. when I say third generation gangbangers, these kids was born late 70s, early 80s. Gangs been established in Macon since 85, 86. You grow up, teenagers, grow up in your youth, adolescence, watching your uncle, your older cousin, older brothers be a part of this gang situation. Gangster disciples, Crips, Bloods, or whatever. This is what you seen. West Side Mafia. Whatever you seen, that's what you seen. So the culture that they brought with them was when they came in, this ain't what's going. The A-ball started cracking, started fracturing, little by little, piece by piece, segment by segment. Because when they came in with a whole nother different mentality, a whole different look and understanding of what the gang culture was. They has been established that long, meaning it's different from the first time that you ever see a gang in something that you growed up seeing most of your life. It's a difference. If a group of Bloods when it first came to Atlanta, I wouldn't have known nothing about no Bloods at that point in time. Then, I'd be like, who these guys? You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have been so amped to join them or be part of it. And if I did, it was just to be cool. I wouldn't have never been thoroughly entrenched in whatever beef they had. That's that first generation. But when you get to that third and fourth generation, that second generation is bad. When you get to that third and fourth generation, that's all they ever seen. That's all they know. So their whole mindset is this is what it is. So when they came and hit now, it changed the whole landscape of everything that was going on in ALTO. Now, before I go any farther with this, let me understand something. D, you just speaking of just ALTO. What about other prisons, places where all the gang activity going on? The reason why I'm saying this about ALTO is that what all the young fellas were. You think some 35, 40-year-old man, I'm not saying not one won't, but a 30-year-old dude is not going to be big on trying to join no gang. Most of them. Meaning you might have one out of 50. You know what I mean? And that's normally. You know what I mean? But the rest of them is not. You're not going to be influenced by gangs. You're not going to have the gang mentality. And if they did come out the street in a gang, they're going to quickly get immersed into whatever the politics was. And this politics that I'm speaking of, this Atlanta down south, was all through the state of Georgia. From my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong, but from my understanding, and when I left ALTO, I didn't see too much difference about what was going on when I got to Leesburg. Because Columbus was the most dominant force down there. They had more people than anybody because it was close to Columbus. And a lot of guys from Columbus obviously wanted to get there. And what ended up happening, Atlanta and Macon started having their alliance, feeling like that's the way we can move together in just in case it go left. It never went left, but just in case. But with that said, let's get back on track. So, reason why I'm telling you this is because ALTO gonna play an intricate part, and what happened with ALTO plays an intricate part into how the gangs became a dominant force in prison. We're gonna get that together.